What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Passable Ball Knowledge Podcast. My name is Sam. That is Aaron. Thank you for joining us today. Today, we are going to be breaking down our official head coach predictions. We will do a playoff wild card round recap, presumably sometime next week. We will also update you as kind of these coach hirings start to come in. Before we get started, I think it's fair to discuss a little bit of news that's happened in the last, 24 to 48 hours. The Dolphins fired Mike McDaniel. We will be breaking down who we think they will hire in this episode, so stay tuned for that. That was a firing that kind of came out of nowhere. It really started to feel like Mike McDaniel was going to stay, and then he's gone. He kind of instantly becomes one of the top OC candidates, even a potential head coaching candidate, depending on how teams feel about him. Aaron, real fast, before we get into this, how do you feel about Mike McDaniel, kind of being fired and the change that's coming in for the Dolphins?
I think it's a thing that's almost like the same as the Browns, where I think both coaches could have kind of, like the organization and the coaches kind of both could have used a reset and like a new spot they have to be in. So I mean, it was unexpected, definitely after because it's like he got fired on Thursday.
Yeah,
Um,
late fire.
yeah, it's super late, and I thought he was safe, especially. I mean, I thought maybe they would go after Harbaugh, but then they weren't really interested, and then they hired their GM, and now they're interested in him after they fired McDaniel. So I'm not surprised, but I was just surprised at like the process that happened to like fire him after a few days.
Yeah, it was interesting because you really started to get the sense from Stephen Ross, the owner, the controversial owner, who that he really likes Mike McDaniel, and he said he wanted to give him another shot, see what he could do with one more year. I think at the end of the day, it likely turned out that it was like a Liam Cohen situation, how Liam Cohen wouldn't go to the Jaguars last year unless they fired their GM. I think a lot of these GMs didn't want to go to the Dolphins unless Mike McDaniel was fired and they could handpick their own guy. So
Yeah, I
at the
mean,
end of
also
the day, yeah,
they were like telling GMs like, "Hey, we don't know if this guy's gonna stay or not." Like,
yeah.
so
And it did just come out like earlier this morning that they officially reached out to John
yeah.
Harbaugh. Um, Also, it's worth noting that they hired their GM, John Eric Sullivan, the kind of an executive from the Packers. We don't know much about him, so I'm not going to give much thought on that hire, but it is interesting. Regardless, they get their guy. Could affect who they go for in the head coaching search. Maybe they decide to go more after like a Jeff Hafley, or I've seen a lot of people also saying Anthony Campanelli, who is the Jags DC, who was in Green Bay for a time and was with Miami for a time as well, and is now coaching in Jacksonville, which is in state. A lot of connections there. We'll see how it all goes down. So far, I haven't heard much about Anthony Campanelli getting head coaching interviews or anything like that, but we'll see how it all turns out. I think the big news that we have to break down is the expected news, which is Matt Ryan has been hired as the president of football operations. I'm going to call it president of football operations because president of football just doesn't roll for me. President of football operations for the Atlanta Falcons, former quarterback of the team, obviously a team legend of sorts. I think in general, this is a expected hire that is a massive foundational builder for the Falcons and changing how their organizations run. Aaron, as a Falcons fan, give your thoughts on this hire and what it means for the team.
I'm excited. I mean, this is something completely new. I think a lot of Falcons fans, including me, were kind of feeling that Arthur Blank was kind of out at this point, and he was just going to become another like late kind of lazy owner in the NFL. But I think maybe that like consulting company woke him up, and they were like, "Hey, like this place is kind of dysfunctional. You like got to do something about it." Um, and like in his press conference, he was talking about like the main reason why Raheem and Terry got fired, and he was like, they just weren't really good leaders. Like they were like they had no control over anything really. Like they weren't really leading the team to a great spot. And so I think that really woke him up, and he's made probably like no he's made two bad head coaching hires in a row. So I think he's really just trying to do anything to get anywhere. and to kind of get out of this like state of mediocrity that they've been in for 5 years at this point. Um, but yeah, I'm excited. Just something really new, and if it doesn't work, we never do it again. And if it does work, then we're saved finally.
Yeah, so this is a hire that I think at the end of the day really feels like it's a massive change. It is a massive change, and it is a massive swing from Arthur Blank. This has like potential to blow up in your face way more than like if you were to hire Ian Cunningham for this job, if you were to hire Brant Tillis, if you were to hire Josh Williams, some of these other kind of hyped up executives. One of those guys will likely end up being the general manager. However, we'll see how that plays out. But at the end of the day, this is something that is going to drastically change the foundation, is going to give someone who has no front office experience full say on all football moves, on any hires, on any trades, on any signings, on any draft picks. He will have the final say. I guess as a Falcons fan, it just has to come down to trust Matt Ryan, right? Like he was with the team. He obviously knows football. The question is, how will he know football moves? And I wonder, it's going to be interesting to see as free agency kicks off, as the draft kicks off, what is the front office dynamic there? Is it like Matt Ryan is in the background and he only has to sign off on moves? Or is it Matt Ryan is the guy on the front lines calling teams, calling draft picks, calling what the draft pick should be? Like, I'm curious to see what that dynamic is going to be. Regardless, it's a huge move for the Falcons. And also it's a move that kind of leaves it up in the air on who could the head coach be for this team. No clear connections for Matt Ryan as far as like maybe outside of Brian Flores. So we'll see who he decides to go for, and we'll see how this plays out. It's going to be interesting at the end of the day.
Yeah, I'm trying to pull up this like the statement he gave.
Matt Ryan.
Yeah, where he said I don't know where the quote was, but he acknowledged like, hey, like this could blow up in my face. And I know I'm new to this. I haven't been on this side of like the field before. I've been an analyst, I've been a player. He was kind of a player's coach in his last couple of years. Not a player's coach, but like he was a mentor to a lot of young guys in his like last couple of years with Atlanta. And he's like, hey, I know this is new for me. I've never really been on like this important really. Like I'm a super important person in this building. But like I'll give it everything I can, and yeah. So I thought that was nice for him to say, like just like being like honest, you know what I mean?
So I think that segues well into where we're going to be going now, which is head coaching predictions. 8 jobs are open. It is a really wide open cycle. A quarter of the league will have new hires.
It's more than anybody thought, really, too.
Yeah, I mean, I thought we would meet. There were only 4 jobs that were kind of guaranteed open at the end of the year because, like, we knew that Stefanski and Carroll were going to get fired, and then at that point, it just became like, what teams are the wild cards? And then the Falcons fired their coach. That was unexpected. The Ravens fired John Harbaugh. That was way unexpected. The Cardinals fired Jonathan Gannon, which I thought should have happened a long time ago, but I guess was expected. And that's where now we're at the Dolphins too. So, 8 jobs opened, a lot to talk about. We're going to start here with the first one that we did, which is the Ravens head coaching prediction. I think it's good before we go in to discuss like, hey, like what should these teams be looking for? What are they trying to change from? And then we'll give our official predictions. Some of these we do have the same. We do know our predictions ahead of time because we made a little slideshow. So, some of these we know that we will have the same coaching hire. So we'll see where that goes. But for the Ravens, Aaron, you can let me know if you agree or disagree. But I think that the Ravens firing John Harbaugh seem to be looking for someone who brings a play calling advantage on one side of the ball. A play calling advantage, whether it's defensive or offensive. I think they felt that John Harbaugh was at a point where he's only as good as his coordinators. So it got to that point where they're like, okay, maybe we need someone who can call plays, who can actively give us an advantage on the coaching side outside of, just being a good culture builder, being a veteran coach, being a leader. I think it's worth seeing what they go for. I think that's really what I think they're going to go for. I think they're also going to look for youth as well. I would be surprised if they make like an old hire. I think they're going to be going for someone who is going to, kind of reinvigorate this culture, reinvigorate this team, give a shot of energy, give a shot of youth. And Aaron, where do you feel like they should go and what they're going to look for?
I agree for the most part on, they need someone that's a play caller. They need someone that really affects like the locker room. Um, so I think you need that like paired with someone that you are very confident you can win now in. Just, because this is a roster that's not not necessarily aging, but your window only lasts so much longer with this team. Because not about any team really, um, but oh my goodness, so you need someone that can win now. That's also proven to be a good play caller. Assuming that's what they want. And I think yeah, we have the same prediction, and we both think that guy is Jesse Minter from the
Yeah.
Chargers.
I think Minter makes a lot of sense when you consider what the Ravens are probably feeling right now, right? So the Ravens in 2024 were faced with a choice. They had Mike Macdonald, who was, the hottest young coaching candidate on the market. And they had a lot of Ravens fans at that time were calling for John Harbaugh to either kind of be forced into retirement or to be fired and to hire Mike Macdonald. They did not do that. Obviously, they didn't. Mike Macdonald's in Seattle. He just coached a defense who does not have a first-team All-Pro to the 12th highest DVOA defensively in NFL history, which is very impressive. I think he's kind of probably be the coach of the year this year. There's a lot of hype around this guy, and I think they feel like they messed up. Now, it's also worth noting, hey, what does Jesse Minter bring you? A lot of people have compared him to Mike Macdonald, and there's some similarities here that are kind of uncanny. Started off in Baltimore as a defensive assistant, which is where Mike Macdonald started. He was there from 2017 to 2020. And then he replaced Mike Macdonald as the defensive coordinator for Michigan when Jim Harbaugh was there. So that Mike Macdonald was the DC in Michigan. He went to go back to Baltimore to be their DC, and Jesse Minter replaced him. And then now he went to LA, where he's been the DC for 2 years. He runs a very similar scheme. He's a similar, kind of youthful guy. He's only 42 years old. I think that he feels like a Mike Macdonald-esque replacement that maybe you hope he could kind of do a similar thing and do what he's done in Seattle. That's kind of my outlook on it. Also, I think he's just a good DC who is going to get a job this cycle anyways. I think the connections to Baltimore make that a lot easier to tie him there. So, yeah, that's my prediction.
Yeah, that's everything I was going to say too, basically.
All right, so I'll let you take lead here for this next one. Now, we do have different predictions for this next one. The Cleveland Browns. This is a team that feels like a wild card for head coaches. They interviewed Aiden Dirty, the Seahawks DC yesterday. It's really unknown who they could go for. We both have kind of predictions that are both a little bit out there, both a little bit different. And Aaron, I'll let you take lead here. Give your thoughts on what they should be looking for, and then give your prediction.
I think this Browns team is really just in search of any kind of spark right now. They're very boring. They have Shadur and Myles Garrett, but you need something to actually make this team win. And so I think that they just need a youth spark for this team, and they need someone that's going to get the fans excited. And this one might not get all the fans excited, but if I was a Browns fan, I would get excited just because it's interesting hire. I think they're going to hire Davis Webb from the Broncos. He's their quarterbacks coach, and I think he's their pass game coordinator too.
Yes, he is.
And we've seen coaches that are just position coaches work out in the NFL. Especially recently. Look at Dan Campbell. He was the tight ends coach for the Saints, and now they're great. He doesn't even call plays. But I
Mike
really like
Vrabel,
it. Mike
not
Vrabel.
to
Yeah.
not to butt in, but Mike Vrabel was another guy who was
Yeah.
like he was like the linebackers coach for the Texans, and he ended up getting that Titans job.
Yeah. So I think that position coaches are really not like undervalued, but they're overlooked in a lot of head coaching cycles. And I think that Davis Webb, just maybe he can get something out of he hasn't done the most with Bo Nix, but there's only really so much you can do with Bo Nix um, in Denver. But you have guys with lots of potential. Like I think Shadur has a ton of potential, but it's just kind of hard to unlock it. So I think Davis Webb will be a really good hire for this team. Just young, interesting, position guy that I think could really. It's a big swing, but he's so young that if you hire him and he's good, he can be your coach for a super long time.
Yeah, Webb, it's kind of worth noting, a former quarterback. He was drafted by the Giants in the third round in 2017, ended up kind of bouncing around practice squads and, rosters like that for, about 5 years in the NFL. And then kind of instantly went into coaching as the Broncos quarterback coach. I think the important thing here when you're looking for, hey, why would someone give this guy a job? It's the connection. That
Yeah,
Sean Payton connection, being kind of his understudy, being only 30 years old, I think is a crucial piece for him in getting a head coaching job. I think that ultimately it's someone who, that's someone who you want your name attached to, especially in the recent years with the job that Sean Payton has done with this Denver Broncos team. And at the end of the day, I think that Davis Webb is a guy who could legitimately get a job this cycle. And while it might be out there, I think the Browns are kind of at a point where it's like, let's get crazy. They are interviewing weird candidates. And I have a somewhat weird candidate for them as well. Um, and yeah, I would not overlook Davis Webb for any job at all. So that
yeah. I think
will
he's kind
go.
of open. I think he's open for a lot of jobs, honestly. Like even like the Ravens one we were just talking about.
Yeah, I think he interviewed.
Um,
Did he interview
yeah,
there?
he interviewed.
I will look. I'll really quickly look at who Davis Webb interviewed, but I think that will uh, segue well into my prediction here. I think. By the way, he interviewed. Looks like with the Raiders, with the Browns, and with the Ravens are where he's interviewed at this point. So those are the names there. Uh, I picked someone who is a little bit outside the box as well. Someone who you would not think of as a prime candidate, but I think at the end of the day, it makes a lot of sense. A lot of Browns players did not want Kevin Stefanski fired, but I think it was an idea of the time felt right. The situation felt like it was time for him to go. And ultimately, they decided to make that firing and to change a little bit. However, I think in general, that coaching staff in Cleveland is highly respected. And they did one thing very, very well, which was they played defense. I mean, they won what? Did Cleveland win 5 games this year?
I think they won 3 games.
No, because they have the seventh pick. I will take a look real fast at their roster or their record here. I believe they ended up winning 5 games. However, let me just be 100% sure of that. Yeah, they won 5 games, which for a roster that is this frankly shitty, 5 games kind of feels like a miracle, especially considering that their offense in points scored was 31st, right? The one thing that this Browns team did really well and made you feel like they could win any game was their defense. And that plays a big part into where I think they're going to go with this job, their defense being so good. I think they are going to go and hire their defensive coordinator, the highly, highly experienced former head coach, Jim Schwartz. Now, Jim Schwartz, worth noting, was a bad head coach. I think it's worth noting that he was not very good as a head coach. He did have a 10-win season with the Lions in 2011. But outside of that, 2-14, 6-10, 4-12, 7-9. So not a terrific head coach, but we're talking about a guy who's been a defensive coordinator in the NFL since 2001. He was a defensive coordinator from 2001 to 2008, then with Bull and Philadelphia from 20 Ben experienced. And at the end of the day, I think Jim Schwartz brings a little bit of stability that the Browns didn't have. He's a guy who clearly is respected by that coaching staff. And at the end of the day, I think that this is a hire that makes a lot of sense for the Browns. It's a hire that feels like, hey, we're retaining the thing that made us really good, which was this defense, which got Myles Garrett to 23 sacks. This is the defense that won them 5 games. Their offense did not win them any of these games. It was their defense. And I think you keep that defensive culture around, keep around the respected head coach, and you try to build off of that while hiring a new OC to improve the offense. So that's where I think ultimately Jim Schwartz will go here, or the Browns will go. I think they end up hiring Jim Schwartz. He's already gotten a head coaching interview. I think they want to keep him in that building. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that's a definite possibility. It's kind of a boring hire, like a stereotypical boring Browns hire, like when they hired like Freddie Kitchens and all that stuff.
That's a good point. I didn't even think about that, but they do have a history of like just hiring the in-house guy with Freddie Kitchens.
And their DC, their old DC was never the head coach, right? He was just interim.
Greg Williams was never the head coach yet, just interim.
But yeah, I think it's definitely possible. But onto the Titans. This is another interesting team. I guess we're going first here, but another interesting team. It's really unclear, like what they're looking for, because they might be looking for someone that has a history with quarterbacks or has a history of winning, or they're looking for like someone like a Grant Udinski, right? Grant, right? Is his first name?
Grant Udinski, yeah.
Grant Udinski, where he's just like, let's just go as young as possible and take a risk, and if it doesn't work, then that set us back another couple of years. But so it's unclear what they want, but I think that they're gonna go for a guy that has a history with quarterbacks and knows what he's doing, so that Cam Ward's growth doesn't get like stunted, like as a quarterback. Because if you hire the wrong guy, then Cam Ward's career is almost done. So I think they're going to go for a guy that has a history with quarterbacks, history of winning, and I think there's one guy I guess you can call it there's one coaching free agent that I think fits that criteria exactly, and I think that is Mike McCarthy, former Cowboys coach, former Packers coach. You can't deny he wins. He's a winning coach. He's experienced. He coached Aaron Rodgers for what, like at least like 10 years, probably.
Yeah, sometime around that.
So he did a lot of good things with Dak. I think he's a very experienced guy, winning. Works really well with quarterbacks, and I think after taking a year off, he's going to be that guy. Like, it happens kind of every year where it's like a good coach that gets fired, they take a year off, and then they get a job and they do well. Like Mike Vrabel.
He already did that. I mean,
but he's gonna do it. He's gonna do it again though. But like you saw that with like Mike Vrabel and Doug Peterson in his first year only, because we don't count the years after. But so yeah, I think they're gonna go for Mike McCarthy.
I respect that decision. Honestly, he was one of like my finalists when I was thinking about this job. I think I agree with you that like they're not going to hire like a 50-year-old. They're going to hire like a guy who is either super experienced and is going to be like a stabilizer, or they're going to hire someone who is a brand new head coach, someone to take a shot on. And ultimately, I kind of went the opposite way of you as far as like, okay, are they going to hire someone experienced or a new guy? I think they're going to hire a new guy. I think they're going to hire someone young. I think they're going to hire someone who can excite. And ultimately, I think they're going to hire someone who is going to bring a highly respected quarterback friendly offense to the team. And more specifically, I know that this guy doesn't call offensive plays, but I think when you consider, hey, who could this guy hire as a head coach? Who could this guy hire as kind of a friend of the quarterback and bring in a system that is super friendly to the quarterback? I think they're going to hire Chris Shula. They just, the Rams DC, they just requested him for a job. And if you consider who Chris Shula will likely bring in as their OC, that he will likely bring in someone from that team.
Oh, what, Shielhaas?
Yeah, like Nate Shielhaas or someone like that. Someone who is a connection to Sean McVay, connection to that system, which is infamously very friendly to the quarterback. And I think at the end of the day, you bring in a guy who will shore up the defense and will bring a system of, hey, listen, we're going to work with you. We're going to make this as easy as possible for you, Cam Ward. And all you have to do is just make the read. So I think Shula makes a lot of sense. He's a young guy. He's been tied to Sean McVay for like the last nearly decade. He's done a really good job with that Rams defense. I think ultimately he will get a coaching job. And I think the Titans feels like the place that will make sense for him and will be the place that he ends up.
Yeah, I think all those, I think those are all good reasons for him going to Titans. I'm a little bit scarred by Rams. He's a DC, right?
Yeah.
I'm a little bit scarred by Rams DC and DCs and their offensive assistants. So I so personally, I wouldn't. I mean, I think it's possible. I think it'd be. He's obviously different than Raheem Morris, and Shieldhouse is different than Zach Robinson, but yeah, I think that's a good prediction.
All right. Well, we'll head to the Cardinals job here. I'll take the lead on this one since you went first back-to-back times. When we were discussing who do we think the Cardinals will hire, it was tough, right? Like it was hard to decide who we think the Cardinals are going to hire. Who, like, this is a job that you don't get you're a terrible team in the worst division in football as far as like to win. Like this is a really hard division to win in. And you don't have like a top pick. You have the third pick, but you're not going to get one of the top quarterbacks in the draft with that pick, considering the teams that are picking above you. And you will probably have to ride out a year with Kyler Murray and a roster that is very poor in a poor location. There's just not much going for this job. So ultimately, I thought about, okay, who's someone who will kind of fit as far as someone who's desperate enough to take a job and also someone who the Cardinals would want to take away, right? Like what could the Cardinals look for that would give them an advantage? And I thought poach inside of your own division, right? Hire someone who is desperate enough to take a head coaching job, someone who I think wants to be a head coach. Again, that's a little hint for who I'm going to pick. And someone who is in division, who by taking him away, you're actively giving yourself a better chance to win by poaching him away from one of your division rivals. You guys might be able to guess who I'm talking about by this. I picked Robert Saleh to be the next head coach of the Cardinals. I think Saleh makes a lot of sense when you consider, okay, the Cardinals are going to look for someone who will invigorate the team, who will kind of give, like, Robert Saleh brings a ton of energy. He's from your division rival in the 49ers. He's done a very, very good job with that defense. And if you want me to be honest, I think Saleh will be a good head coach in time. I just think he has all the tools. He's a good defensive play caller. He is a great motivator. He seems to get guys behind him. I just can't see how Saleh doesn't end up being a good coach. And I think we've seen a lot of times that coaches get their second chance after failing, and they really work out. And at the end of the day, I think Saleh fits. I think Saleh makes sense for the Cardinals. I think he's desperate enough to take a head coaching job. I think he wants to be a head coach again. And in division, it makes sense for the Cardinals to want to poach and actively try to get a leg up in that way. So I have Robert Saleh going to the Cardinals.
Yeah. I think that would be, I think that would be, a good enough hire for them. And I kind of used the same principle almost on my pick. someone that's kind of desperate to be a head coach, second time head coach. And this guy, even though his team wasn't bad, I don't think his seat is exactly, cold. I think the offense he ran could have been better. So I think he's looking to get back into head coaching. And I think that guy, it's going to be someone that, you know, we talked about this, I think, last episode. The Cardinals is not a very desirable job.
Mhm.
So I think that this is a guy that they're going to have to kind of settle on. But he also wants to be a head coach again. So I think the Cardinals are going to hire Arthur Smith, the Steelers OC and former Falcons head coach. Um, there's really no reason he should be a head coach again. He was bad in Atlanta, and his offense hasn't exactly been like insane in Pittsburgh. But I think somehow, some way he's going to interview well and get another job. And I think the Cardinals is that team. Not with any reason why. I kind of said like they're just kind of settle on it. Um, just because no one really wants this job. So that's my expert opinion on why I think Arthur Smith is going to go to the Cardinals.
I mean, it is a good point, right? If you're a young OC or DC kind of making a name for himself, like if you're in Anthony Campanelli or someone like that, how much sense does it make for you to uproot everything to go to the Cardinals, a team that they might fire their GM by next year? You will be in the hardest division in football. Does it make more sense just to kind of wait
I
your
think
turn?
you're kind of cursed if you go to Arizona.
Yeah, it's just a place that does not feel like they could even ever win. Like it just
No,
feels like it's impossible to win there, especially in the current state of the division. I think a guy like Arthur Smith makes sense. Like I think there's a sense that the Steelers overachieved. I think they looked really good down the stretch. And hey, listen, like let's imagine a world where the Steelers go out and beat the Texans and their offense looks pretty freaking good, like better than any offense has been able to look against the Texans. Suddenly, maybe you're thinking, hey, Arthur Smith is doing a pretty good job. Maybe I'll shoot that guy an interview request. And then from there, that develops. I think that makes sense. I think the Cardinals could, settle on a hire like that at the end of the day. So we'll see where that goes. The Miami Dolphins. We have the same prediction here. Aaron originally started off with a different prediction, but we ultimately kind of met in the middle here. It's the rumored one. I think it makes a lot of sense based on the history between these two parties, specifically the owner and the coach. I think you guys probably know where this is going. We both said John Harbaugh is going to go to the Dolphins. A couple factors for me, Aaron, before I kind of give you your reason to explain your thoughts on it. I think the Dolphins are maybe the team that's best in a position to like win, right? Like maybe you could kind of squint your eyes and see the talent on this roster and see like, oh, okay, this team could, maybe put it together, win 9 or 10 games if you really like scrap it out in free agency, you get a good draft class, maybe you have enough talent on this roster to make a little bit of a push. I think Harbaugh sees that. I think Harbaugh would ideally like to win immediately. He's 63. He doesn't have all day to wait and to be like, okay, no, we'll rebuild for a couple years and then I'll start to really step it up. I think that's a factor. Also, I think if we're talking about the Dolphins, they might blank check him, right? Like they might say, hey, we've wanted you for 10 years now. Like, here's a
yeah, I
blank
mean,
check.
we saw like the rumored conditions he wants too
Yeah.
for his job. I don't think that's true because it's a lot to ask for.
What are we talking about? I don't know if I know what you're talking about.
Like there was this post on Twitter and there was this like rumor going around that like he wanted like at least like 20 million a year and something stupid. I don't think it's true,
I don't think
but
that's true, but I think
yeah,
he
but I
wants a
think
lot of money.
I
I
think
think
he
he
can get
wants a shit ton of money.
yeah, I think he can just get whatever amount of money he wants, especially if it's from the Dolphins where they've wanted him for so long.
And the owner is crazy enough to give him that money
Yeah.
too. So I think that's a factor. And ultimately, I think we're talking about a guy who's 63 years old. What's a place where you could go and
And
realistically say, and after I'm done, I
yeah.
can just live here
Yeah, live
and
in Miami
retire?
for the rest of yeah.
Florida is the retirement capital of the world. There's no income tax. There is no tax on pretty much anything in Florida. The weather is nice year round. I can just envision John Harbaugh being like, yeah, I'll go coach here for, 5 to 7 years and then I'll retire and I'll just golf.
Yeah.
Like I could see that happening. I don't think that like the Giants offer that. I don't think the Titans offer that. I think specifically the Dolphins have a lot of things that Harbaugh would like. And I think ultimately he ends up in Miami. I know you agree. Do you have any kind of extra thoughts there?
Um, Not really, but I just think that they're looking for anything that can really just like bring life back to the organization because assuming they're kind of done with Tua, it can really bring in like a new era in Miami of like, okay, we have this guy that can win and we're gonna look to win as soon as possible instead of going for uh an experienced coordinator again.
You think they try to trade for Lamar?
I don't think so. I think it's gonna
Like
be almost impossible.
like there's been a lot of talk about Lamar maybe like his contract is going to be up soon. Maybe do you think they just call and just be like, "Hey, do you want to give up Lamar Jackson?" Like
I don't
you
think
say
so.
that? I think they at least try because Lamar is from
Yeah,
Florida, so maybe. But I think Lamar maybe didn't like Harbaugh that much at the end. Maybe that's why he
yeah.
got fired. We'll see where that goes. We're not going to speculate too much. Anyways, we agree on the Dolphins. Not much more to say there.
Yep. On
The Las
to
Vegas Raiders. I'll let you lead this one, Aaron.
um Raiders. Another uh they have more benefits than the Cardinals just because they have the first pick they're gonna get. Their quarterback of the future. But for my pick, I think they're gonna take or they're gonna hire a guy who has connections to one person specifically. Um in the Raiders building, and that person has a ton of say in who they hire. And I think this would be a great hire if they hire this guy, and that guy is Brian Flores. I guess he's a free agent right now. I mean, he doesn't have a job, um,
Yeah.
so I think it's going to be pretty easy for them to pick him up. Brady has a connection. He worked with, or he was in the same building as Brian Flores for like 10 years almost when he was an assistant with the Patriots when he was I don't think he was ever the DC, but he was like a linebackers coach or something
Yeah,
like
he
that.
was like their assistant head coach and linebackers coach or something like
Yeah.
that.
Another position coach that was good.
Yeah.
But his last kind of talking about that, his last head coaching tenure by no means was bad. It was a very good thing he did in Miami, went 6-10 with
Pe-
a
People forget that like 6-10 doesn't look that impressive. That team was
that team
widely
was that team
projected.
was so bad.
That team was widely projected to be like first overall pick.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. Like they were
And
projected to be horrible and they ended up being like a pretty watchable team at times.
yeah, and I think we talked about this last episode too, where he just got fired because the owner didn't like him. Um, so I think he is really deserving of another shot. I hate to see him not go to the Falcons. He's my guy. He's my main guy. Um, so I think that Brady especially would be willing to take a chance on him, assuming he liked Brian Flores in the Patriots building. Um, I think
Also,
he
before I just want to step in, if I remember correctly, Brady and Fox, like the number one team, called a lot of Vikings games this year, which means that he would have had eyes on that defense, which was pretty ferocious, a lot. So I think that
yeah.
also plays a factor. Sorry for interrupting. I just wanted to say that.
But yeah, I think this is the best guy that the Raiders can hire. Connections, past head coaching success, and Tua was better with Flores, right? Or with like the coordinators, I think.
Yeah.
Like he was pretty solid in his second and third year there. Um, but yeah, I think they're going for Flores.
I have a similar candidate, honestly, a really good DC on a really good defense of a really good and a former head coach is also what I was going to say. Um, looking at these candidates, there's one candidate that sticks out to me that I'm surprised isn't getting more buzz considering the job he's done. And that candidate is Vance Joseph, who is the defensive coordinator for the Denver Broncos and has made that defense absolutely ferocious. He's a former head coach, highly respected. I think he's going to go to the Raiders. And I think it's for the reason that, hey, you want to talk about another thing. I think Brady has probably been watching a lot of Broncos games. And not only that, he probably watched 2 games where the Broncos played the Raiders and beat the shit out of the Raiders, specifically on defense. I think that plays a huge part in considering, okay, who does Brady respect? What does Brady see? I think Brady saw that the Broncos in their own division won 14 games, and those games were widely powered by the Broncos defense. I think it's a similar situation to Saleh. You get better by poaching in your own division. You take away a team's greatest strength, you take away a team's kind of, guy, and you make him your guy and you bring him to your team. I think Vance Joseph makes a lot of sense. I'm surprised he's not getting more buzz. I think he's done a very excellent job with that Broncos defense. Before that, he was doing a pretty good job with the Cardinals defense, who were not that good, and he made them a pretty good defense. And at the end of the day, I think Vance Joseph makes a lot of sense to the Raiders, and I think he's going to be their guy.
Yeah, I think we both have pretty similar, like reasons, like just two guys that have made their teams, a lot better, um, with just or like just like since they've been there.
And now that leads us into the New York Giants prediction here. Let me get this up. The Giants are a team who've had a vacancy for a long time. They are a somewhat attractive job because Jackson Dart's there. You can squint and see like talent on this team. Yeah, Aaron's doing it right now. If you squint really hard, you can see the talent. This is a team with a good defense. Jackson Dart has flashed. Cam Scatterboo looked good before he got hurt. There's some good players on this team, Malik Neighbors. I think this is a real offensive coach's dream, and we agree because we both have Kevin Stefanski going to the Giants. This feels like if they don't get Harbaugh, it's going to be Stefanski. If they don't get Stefanski, it's going to be Harbaugh. Like, it feels like it's one or the other. At the end of the day, I think that Stefanski just makes a ton of sense for the Giants. He feels like a Giants coach. He's an experienced guy who is highly respected across the league. I think he can do a lot of good things with Jackson Dart. I think that he did not have any talent in Cleveland offensively, and now he has some talent to actually make this thing work. I just think Stefanski makes a ton of sense for the Giants, being that experienced name, being an offensive guy, and being someone who can, kind of continue to get the most out of these young guys on this Giants roster.
Yeah, I agree for pretty much all the same reasons. Just someone that can really just get everything out of this team, and like we saw what Kevin Stefanski could do with like Baker, in his first couple of years there, and he actually has a talented quarterback. So yeah, just pretty much all the same reasons you just said.
All right. I mean, yeah, very simple. I think a lot of people agree that Stefanski or Harbaugh is the coach. We're going to go on to one that's a little bit more of a wild card. The Falcons. This is the last coaching vacancy that we have to talk about. Aaron is a Falcons fan. We have a lot of thoughts about this. Who like has any connections to Matt Ryan? Who do we think the Falcons want? What do we think the Falcons want? I don't think they would go for another defensive guy because they just fired Raheem, and your offense was pretty bad under Raheem. I think you want someone who you can trust offensively. And we agree on this one. There's not really much to lead into with this. There's one major candidate who hasn't been mentioned, and he's been tied to the Falcons essentially from the very beginning. Like, the first request that the Falcons made was this guy. That guy is Clint Kubiak, the Seahawks offensive coordinator. I am a Seahawks fan. I have not really given my thoughts on Kubiak, but my thoughts are that he is a good coach, a good play caller. He's a little awkward. He's not necessarily a personality that everybody will get behind, but he's a guy who is just a flat out good offensive play caller. He's not a McVay or an Andy Reid like mastermind, I don't think. But at the end of the day, I think you can trust the offense that he'd be bringing with him. I think he just makes a lot of sense. I think Aaron has made the connection before to me. Like, this Seahawks offense like in like the Falcons offense as far as personnel goes is pretty similar. You can like kind of make the connections there. I think you want someone who can kind of save Michael Penix, because I think there's a feeling there that Penix might be at risk, right? Like of not being good. I think you want someone who is going to come in and cater to him and make him kind of realize his full potential. And at the end of the day, I just think Kubiak makes a lot of sense for the Falcons. I think there was a reason why he was the first guy that they requested. I think at the end of the day, I think I trust, that he's going to be the guy, and I think he's going to get a job. And I think the Falcons probably offer the most appealing package to him as a coaching candidate if he were to get that offer.
Yeah. He's been the guy that everybody's kind of been talking about since the start. Um, a lot of Falcons fans would seem to be happy with this if the hire does happen. Especially if we get like Ian Cunningham and those people in the Falcons building. They think we can build a really solid just like foundation for this team moving forward. I think he's a good play caller, and yeah, runs a very similar offense to the Falcons, like similar personnel. So I think Kubiak is going to get hired in Atlanta.
Yeah, well, we agree.
Yeah.
That's it. There's only one other thing to do here, and it's now the heading here is a little misleading. We'll explain it. Coaches who won't get jobs, and to kind of elaborate, these are coaches that we are locking won't get jobs. We're going to make one prediction each about who we think won't for sure get hired. So at the end of the day, I'm going to we're gonna make bets on. We're not just talking about the coaches that we said wouldn't get jobs, like by just saying like, oh, so this guy didn't get hired. We're saying coaches who are getting interviews, but we're willing to bet money on that they will not get hired. I'll go first. I think this one feels pretty good to me. I don't think this guy is going to excite anyone. I think that he has shown before that he doesn't really stand well on his own as a head coach. He's been in the league for a long time defensive coordinator, Giants and Chiefs. I don't think Steve Spagnuolo is going to get a job. He's gotten, I think, a couple interviews. I would be absolutely jaw on the floor if Steve Spagnuolo gets a job. And he just got hired by the Falcons. So that's that. We'll see you guys next time. No, Steve Spagnuolo, I'm willing to guarantee that Steve Spagnuolo will not be a head coach in the NFL next year or likely ever again. So that's my prediction.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think he's going to get a job. But if there's one person I'm more confident that's not going to get a job, it is someone who is who was a former head coach. Everywhere he's went, he's kind of made the team worse. And I think that guy is Cliff Kingsbury. If he gets a job, whoever gets him is going to be bad. He was not good with the Cardinals. He had that 1 year where they started 7-0 and they sucked for the rest of the season. He just left the Commanders. No one really knows what's up with that still. And yeah, everywhere he went, he's kind of made the team worse. When he went to USC, he made Caleb Williams worse somehow. When he went to Washington, he had a good first year there, and then, or it was his first year, right?
Yes.
Last year. And then this year, granted, he didn't have a quarterback for a lot of the season, but the offense was so bad this year. So yeah, that's one guy I'm really confident just isn't going to get a job.
Yeah. So briefly before we wrap up here, I think it's worth talking about who do we think could be a coordinator candidate based on who got fired. If I had to make a prediction here to think about some guys, I think we're looking at who the Ravens lost. I think it makes a lot of sense that Todd Monken could be an OC. He's also getting head coaching interviews. I don't think he's going to be a head coach. I think he makes a lot of sense to be a guy who could be an OC, especially for a team like the Seahawks, who might lose their offensive coordinator, and Mike McDonald has an obvious connection there. I think it makes a lot of sense if Jim Schwartz isn't hired as the Browns head coach. I think it makes a lot of sense to look out for him as a DC. I think if Brian Callahan just interviewed for the Bucks OC job. I think he could be a guy that gets an offensive coordinator position. Jonathan Gannon as a DC, Mike McDaniel as an OC, Brian Flores as a DC, Patrick Graham as a DC. Like there are a lot of really, really Brian Dable, Raheem Morris, like a lot of really, really good veteran coordinator candidates who are going to fill a lot of jobs. And that might make teams a little bit more comfortable to hire a first-time guy, right? If you can also pair him, like if you could hire like a Anthony Campanelli, I'm just throwing out random names here, but then you could also say, hey, guess what? He can bring Brian Dable with him to be his OC. Maybe that makes you feel a little bit more comfortable to kind of fill out, this position. So at the end of the day, it's going to be an interesting cycle. 8 jobs open. We will continue to update you as we go along here. We want to thank you all for watching. Before we go, Aaron has a little bit of a task here. He is so excited to tell us about what happened today in history, Saturday, January 10th. He's excited to tell us about, what went down. He told me before the podcast, he's like, Sam, today's a big one. Today is a really, really, really big one. One that he was like almost bursting with excitement to tell me about. He was giddy before the podcast. You should have seen him. He couldn't sit still, kind of wringing his hands and, fidgeting. He was so excited. Aaron, take it away, man. I know you can't wait to get going.
The big thing that happened today is today in 1776, the U.S. declared independence. I'm kidding. Thomas Paine published Common Sense.
Hey, that's a big one. Shout out T-Pain.
T-Pain. Big T-Pain.
Yeah, I'm talking about Thomas Paine. I'm not talking about T-Pain.
So yeah, published Common Sense. I think today in 1920, the League of Nations was instituted.
Oh, that's pretty big.
Just really trying to think. First UN meeting was today in 1946.
Pretty cool.
And yeah, that's it.
Okay.
And Sam, was anybody born today? Do you know?
Contrary to popular belief, there were people born today. I know it's like kind of surprising when you think about it, like, hey, who was born on this day? Most people would probably bet dollars to donuts that nobody was born on January 10th, which is a common misconception, but it's just not true. So let me see if I can find anybody interesting here. I'm just thinking, right? I'm just thinking hard. George Foreman, he's dead. You know a fun fact about George Foreman, Aaron?
What?
Want to know a fun fact?
Yeah.
You want to know a fun fact about Foreman?
Yeah.
Aaron,
yeah, I do.
Yes.
Yes.
Did you know
Hello? that? You cut out.
Oh, damn. Oh no.
What's happening?
No. All right. Am I back? Am I back?
Yeah.
Hello?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm back. All right.
Hello. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yes, I
can.
Okay. Technical difficulties. Famousbirthdays.com shut down my website. It shut down my computer. So back. George Foreman was born on this day. Do you want to know a fun fact about George Foreman?
Yes, I would love to.
George Foreman named all of his children George Foreman.
Really?
He has like 5 kids, and they're all named George Foreman.
So I'm going to do that.
Just Aaron. I'm not going to gaslight your last name here, but yeah. Aaron. Also, one last final birthday, because this is the only other person I could see before I had to close the website because my computer was breaking. Donald Fagan.
Hey.
Happy birthday, Don.
IGY.
Deacon Blues.
How about that?
Steely Dan. All right. Well, hope you guys enjoy. Enjoy your playoff Saturday. It's going to be a fun day. Got a whole playoffs this weekend. We will probably have a podcast for you on like Tuesday or something like that. Sometime around Tuesday. We hope you guys enjoyed. Give your thoughts in the comments below on who you think will be hired and who you think will be hired where and when and how and why. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed. We'll see you guys next time. Peace out.